Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 2208. Be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today I'm in Stockholm, Sweden. What a beautiful place. With a very special guest by the name of David Campo. David, welcome to Cars Yeah. Do you have any gear, and are you ready to release the clutch?
Well, thank you for having me. Yes, I'm very ready.
All right, we'll have some fun. You know, I'm really honored because David has been listening to Cars Yeah for a long time. We chatted a little bit before the show, and you talked about hearing my 1000th show, which was a unique show because Tommy Kendall, the racer, interviewed me. We did a little switching of the mics in that show. But I'm really honored that you've listened to so many shows and been inspired, and that's how we connected here to finally get you on the show because you are a bit of I'll call you a Renaissance man. You do some very cool, unique things. I'm a designer. I was a designer in my creative career years and years ago. I still try to be creative, but you take it to a whole nother level. So we're going to learn more about that. But first, I'm going to ask you this. What's one little thing that most people don't know about David Campo?
Well, I thought about this a lot, and I do a lot of photography for my brand and so on, and I shoot my cars and stuff. But what I really, really love is photographing birds and bugs in the summer here in Sweden.
Oh,
it's
really?
Just,
cool. Yeah, nature.
Yes. And I'm 46 years now of age. And last year I asked my wife to get me one of those bird watcher books.
Oh,
when I said,
okay.
That's the first step of getting old, I guess. But yeah, it's nice.
Hey, don't call 46 old. You're looking mighty young from my side of the fence. So you're still a youngster in my eyes. But, you know, nature... And being a designer in my career in the past, nature can offer us so many inspirational things. And when we stop and really look at nature in depth, and photography is a wonderful way to do that, you start to see things that you don't normally see when you're just walking down the street or through the forest or wherever you're seeing birds and things. It's spectacular, isn't it?
Sure. Yeah. And I really like the macro stuff, going really close up on a bug or something like that. It's amazing. It's a whole different world. It's like kind of going out, into space, but right in front of you.
Well, birds and insects, I kind of akin that to going into the ocean and seeing some of the things in the ocean there's things they still haven't even found that are living creatures that are just so amazing. I'll tell you one of the things that just mesmerizes me are jellyfish.
Yeah.
I could just sit and watch jellyfish all day. I always said I'd love to have an entire wall in my house that's a jellyfish tank, just with this awesome sound system so I could just sit and meditate and just watch those creatures move. Now, I've been stung by jellyfish, so you don't want to touch those things. But it's pretty cool. Well, thanks for sharing that. Interesting. And I'm not surprised knowing you the way that I know you. So let me give you a proper introduction. David Campo is the founder of Nezumi Studios, a business where he has merged his passion for the automotive, watch, fashion, and music industries for over a decade. He's a creative director, a horologist. Now, if you don't know what that is, you're going to learn today. A vintage car enthusiast whose studio and brands has fans around the globe. He has a fascination for watches. There's a clue there. Collects them and designs his own line along with his lifestyle designs. David created his own Porsche Club. He calls it the Roughneck Brigade. It started with a grill badge design and now includes nearly 100 Brigadiers. Am I saying that right, David? Brigadiers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much correct,
I love that. Across 9 countries with members in Europe, the UK, and the USA. He has a special collaboration with the legendary Porsche designer Ruf. You've all heard Alois. He's been on the show a few times, as his wife has as well, culminating in a limited edition series for Nezumi Ruf timepieces. And you know what? The first 200 they made sold out in 21 minutes. He also designed a watch to celebrate the band Anthrax's album, Persistence of Time. Sounds like you like music as well. We'll be back in just a moment, but first a word from our sponsors, so give them a little love, and we'll be right back. Covercraft's newest 3-layer all-climate cover is especially engineered for moderate weather conditions. Plus, it's treated with an extra UV-resistant formula. It's very soft, it's breathable, And it's easy to store while pampering your paint, providing maximum UV, rain, and dust protection. If you live where it's windy, well, simply add their gust guards for those windy conditions for extra protection. Your 3-layer all-climate cover is custom tailored with Covercraft's attention to detail, form, and fit with the quality and specifics that have been their standard since 1965. Covercraft protects cars, trucks, motorcycles, RVs, trailers, and your watercraft too. Every one of my vehicles is protected by a Covercraft cover, whether it's stored inside or out. And I've got a deal for you. If you use the code YEAH21 at covercraft.com, you'll get 10% off your Covercraft order. That's right, 10% off. Just use the code YEAH21 at checkout. Covercraft, protecting the things that move you. I was tired of my rates for my collector car insurance going up every year for no explainable reason. My carrier seemed to be turning into a media company versus an insurance company, and I realized that a portion of my policy premium was paying for all those so-called free media goodies. So I did my homework, I talked to knowledgeable collectors, shopped around, and discovered American Collectors Insurance. They've been serving the collector car hobby since 1976. You last that long by properly serving your customers' insurance need, not with a lot of fluff. ACI is ranked the #1 online collector car insurance provider according to Google, Trustpilot, Facebook, and they offer their real person guarantee live support. No never-ending phone loops when you need help. Plus, because you don't use your classic car as a daily driver, you could save up to 40% compared to regular auto insurance. American Collectors Insurance provides agreed value policies. So if you experience a total loss to your collector vehicle or it's stolen, you'll be paid the amount listed on your declaration page, less any deductibles, of course. No ifs, ands, or buts. Give them a call today and ask for your free quote at 866-ACI-YEAH. That's 866-224-9324. Tell them you're a friend of mine, Mark Greens at Cars Yeah. American Collectors Insurance. Classic car insurance designed by collectors for collectors. AutoGeek's Blackfire SiO2 Spray Sealant. It's a spray-on, wipe-off sealant that's quick, safe, and easy to clean and protect your vehicles. I love using it on all my cars. AutoGeek's Blackfire SiO2 Spray Sealant is a spray-on, wipe-away sealant that uses SiO2 ingredients to provide a slick, brilliant, and long-lasting shine. Silicon dioxide is known to be one of the most effective ingredients in car care products, and Blackfire Spray Sealant takes advantage of every stunning feature it has to offer. This sealant will protect your paint from road film, dirt, and other common contaminants while providing an impeccable, long-lasting, hydrophobic surface that forces water to sheet and bead on your paint for months. Go to autogeek.net to get yours and for the best product selections on the internet today, along with their skilled technical support. Autogeek.net is where I go for all my detailing needs. That's autogeek.net. Check them out today. So, David, as I said at the beginning, I want to dive a little deeper into your world because as I have learned more about you and looked at your website, which is very cool, by the way, you are a guy that gets his hands into a lot of things. And it's not just that you are a jack of all trades, master of none. You seem to become a master of everything that you touch. So I want to start with the brand Nezumi. The name, where does the name come from?
Well, the brand now is 11 years old this year. So I've always been really into charities and especially animal related, like Sea Shepherd and so on. And so I wanted something, that could had a meaning of sorts that, I like to give back in a way and so on. So I wanted the brand to have a connection to the charity. And I found this figure in Japan called Nezumi Koza, which is a sort of a Robin Hood figure in Japanese folklore.
Oh, yes.
Yes, that's where Nezumi derived from.
Well, I find this interesting, David, because I love the Japanese culture and Japanese design. In fact, some of my guests know that, and my listeners know, that I was made in Japan. So maybe there's a correlation there in some way. Mm-hmm. The whole concept of Japanese design, the simplicity, do you find some inspiration from that akin to the Nezumi character and what that character is all about of helping others and rescuing things?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I've been in the fashion industry for about 20 years now, and my main focus has always been denim and leather goods. Denim being very much popular, from the high-end brands of denim world is mostly from Japan. So when I started Nezumi, it was actually not a watch brand. It wasn't even a brand at all. It was just a project for me to do something else, and I working with my clients and doing their visions, taking them to life, and so on. So I wanted to do jeans manufactured in Sweden, which hadn't been done for many, many years. So that was my first project for Nezumi, which later led into me doing full denim lines and adding leather goods and jackets and shirts and stuff like that.
Interesting. I love that. Well, I mentioned in your intro, you're also a horologist, which some people may go, wait, what's that? And I have to admit, when I first read it, I went, a horologist? What? Oh, watchmaker, watch repair. Okay, that's where I remember that from. And so watches. Now, a lot of people that are into cars are into watches because they're beautiful mechanisms, designs. There's so many watchmakers that design watches around the automotive industry. I've had many of them on the show here. Yep. Watches, what migrated you into watches? And don't worry, you Cars Yeah listeners, we are going to talk about cars today. We'll get to that. But watches, what got you to timepieces?
I mean, I was born in 76, like I mentioned before, and I think my generation probably aspires to go back to the analog sort of way of living. Mm-hmm. We like the mechanical things, slow life down, and it's too fast these days. I feel like.
Amen.
So, yeah. So, and that's kind of where I remember. I think mid 90s probably. I was at my grandparents' place. My grandfather's uncle, I think, had passed away, so we helped out with his house and everything, cleaning and stuff like that. And we got a bunch of boxes delivered because he was a watchmaker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I remember going through these piles of watches, sorting out what we thought was valuable and what was going to go to the auction and so on. Mm-hmm. And my grandfather, he was an engineer. He was a airplane and what do you call it? Like a missile or not missile. That sounds bad. But
a rocket scientist.
Yes, yeah. I would say a rocket scientist, but he worked with engineering aircraft rockets.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I call him a rocket scientist. That's what I call him.
Okay, let's go with that. So he's very much into like teaching me everything from the ground up, and he was going through the movements as well as he could, and telling me how things worked and so on. So I guess that probably planted a seed.
That kind of got you going. I think there's a truth to that. When I was a kid, I had a good friend who had, his parents had more money than mine, and so he always had cool stuff. And he got this really cool Seiko chronograph, and it had this orange face to it. And I wanted one of those so bad, but I think more than the fact that he had it, I wanted it because it looks so technical and mechanical with all the dials and all the little things that would spin and everything. And I did finally save up enough money from waxing cars to buy myself one. And it's still in a box here in the house. And I always thought, how cool is this? And later in life, I got into watches, and I've got some mechanical watches and things. And when my father-in-law passed away, we found a watch that he got when he served in the military. He was a Marine for 30 years, and he served in Vietnam, and he had this beautiful glycine watch. And we were going through things, and my wife said, I always remember Dad walking around shaking his wrist. And one time I said, Dad, why you shake your wrist all the time? He goes, I'm winding my watch. And so that watch ended up going to my son, and he holds that as his cherished memory of his grandfather, that glycine watch. He even sent it back and had it refurbished because it was pretty worn and so forth. But watches instill all sorts of very cool things. And one of the things I found interesting was you collaborated with Nezumi Ruf to create a special edition Ruf watch, which is really cool because I know him. I met him back in 2006 when I picked up a Porsche at the factory and drove. The first place I drove was to his place. Got to ride in and drive the Yellowbird, which is a scary beast. So tell me about how that whole collaboration came together.
Well, we actually did two watches together. I was contacted by a guy that works at Ruf, I think via Instagram or something like that. And we got to talking about, I think he just contacted me about one of my cars, and he saw something and he wanted to ask whatever. So it was nothing really like that. And then I realized he was working there. So I asked him shamelessly, maybe you can connect me with one of your bosses right there, so we can see if we can do a watch together. And he did. He connected me to Estonia at that time.
Estonia, yes.
And, yeah. So we got to talking, and she was really on board, and Eloise was on board as well. So it was very much easy. It just, smooth sailing the whole way. And
sometimes you just have to ask, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
It's exactly like that. And I mean, everything just went so fast from me contacting them to us releasing the first watch and then selling out. And then I just really didn't really grasp what we just did until we released the second one. That's when I was like, okay, this is huge. I mean, this is kind of maybe my life's work. I don't know, but
Well, the Rufs are such nice people. I got to see them again during Car Week at one of the event. Well, many of the events I ran into them pretty much every day. It seemed like Estonia was a guest on my show not too long ago, and I'm going to be having their daughter on the show as well. And I also want to talk about you got involved with the band Anthrax, which is pretty cool. I did a watch with them too. So, do we see something like this coming from you in the future with different organizations?
Absolutely. Yes. We have a lot of collaborations planned. It started with a watch I did with MGM Pink Panther. That was the first.
Okay.
But there's a difference between the collaborations. It's licensing, which was the Pink Panther. And then, Ruf was a true collaboration, as was Anthrax. So when I actually grew up in Scottsdale, or actually Albuquerque first, and then we moved to Scottsdale.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when I lived in Scottsdale, my best friend there, his father was a very famous, or still is actually a very famous stage clothing designer for
cool.
Rock musicians and so on. Like he did back then, he did Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses and all these bands.
Oh wow!
And today he's doing Lady Gaga.
Oh my God!
And so on. So
wow.
yeah, so he's
serious design stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's probably where my passion for fashion, pun intended, came about. Yeah. So.
Well, it's really cool. I encourage you listeners, go to the website, Nezumi, Nezumi studios.com. You can sign up there. I've signed up there to receive announcements so that if you're interested in this kind of thing, you can receive announcements. But, just go to the website and check out. It's a beautiful website that you've created, and the photographs and the watches. Oh, you're welcome. It's really cool. Now, Porsches. We got to talk about Porsches because that's one of the things that has drawn us together. As a listener, I'm a Porsche guy, love Porsches. Although I'm Porsche-less for the first time in like 45 years right now. It's really weird.
Really?
Well, yeah, I sold my Orange Crush, the turbo that you've heard about for so many years. I hit the market, I think, at a rare time, mid-year this year, and sold it to a guy who's actually lives an hour north of me. He's a huge Porsche collector. So I always say my car is just parked in a nicer garage right now. I've got rights to go visit her, so that's cool. I'll have another one in my garage. But you've created a Porsche Club that you call Roughneck Brigade. Tell us all about that. Yeah,
well, I joined the Porsche Club of Sweden, and they used to have a really nice badge, which was, it looked basically exactly the same as the Porsche crest. But when I joined, I think they weren't allowed to use it in the old design anymore, so it changed it up, and I just didn't like the design. So, like my mind works, I have to put my own touch on things.
Of course.
So I went about designing my own badge. It wasn't even a thought in my head about starting a club. I just wanted a cool badge for my car. That's how it started. And then I did an Instagram page and started to post in my car. And back then I had a 911 SC, which was my first,
great car.
First 911. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's where the club started, and then the people started emailing me and texting and so on, like wanting to join the club. And I was like, okay, maybe we should do this.
Yeah.
So that's how it came about. And then today we're like you mentioned, we're over 100 members in, I think it is 8 or 9 different countries, and people from every walk of life. We have rock stars and we have regular people like myself. So,
well, it's a cool design. I love the Roughneck Brigade, Flat Six Misfits, the Nezumi crew. It's got kind of a skull and wings. A little bit of a crossover of almost, dare I say, a Hell's Angel type, motorcycle club esque look, with the grill design. So it's a very cool deal. And if you just Google Roughneck Brigade grill badge, you'll see pictures of it. It'll come up. I used to collect grill badges. I had hundreds and hundreds of them. It got a little overwhelming, and I had to stop. I'm like, this is one of those things that you can get a little crazy with. But some of them, they were all vintage, and they were so beautiful.
Yeah, they are super.
I've saved a few. I had some on my cars. I've saved them, but I've since sold a lot of them. Now, I'd like to talk about what I call inspirational people, maybe mentorship. You've heard me before. I refer to it as driving inspirations in our lives. Is there somebody that's been like that for you that has really helped you move up and through your career?
Yeah, absolutely. My grandfather has been a huge role in my life as my stepdad. But my grandfather, I grew up with him. I actually moved back from the U.S. when I was 15 or so, and I lived with my grandparents here in Sweden. So he was a father figure to me, and like I said, he always, being an engineer, he always took me to the hangars at the airfield, and I got to play there, and he taught me a lot of stuff right there. So he's been a big part of my life, inspirational and whatnot. But also, I mean, the whole, like you mentioned, the Roughneck Brigade name, for me, it kind of derives from World War II Brigadiers and so on. So the whole name is actually connected to, kind of my grandfather being in the Air Force his whole life. So, yeah.
That's very cool. You're very fortunate. My grandfather was a true blue cowboy, lived in Texas and rode a horse pretty much up until the day he passed away in his 80s. And I never got to know him that well because back in those days, I lived in California and he was a long way away, didn't get to visit that much. And I always felt like I kind of missed out on learning more about his life because I grew up on the beach with long hair surfing. And when I would go to Texas, this farm, with cattle and horses, I felt like I was on another planet. And, but it was pretty cool because it was just an entirely different way of life. It was slowed down, but he was a very hardworking man. I'm sure that's where my father and I got our work ethic. And so you're very fortunate you got to have a life around your grandfather, and especially when he has a cool career like that. I see the inspiration that he provided you, and that's pretty cool too. We'll take another short break. We come back. I want to talk about some of the many challenges, maybe one in particular that you face, so keep that thought in mind, and we'll be right back. You've heard me talk about Linkage Magazine here on Cars Yeah for a couple of years now. Well, they're growing, and in 2023, they're going to grow from 4 issues a year to 6. And there's an opportunity here for you to take advantage of this growth. If you go to linkagemag.com and click on the Renew button, if you already subscribe, you can get a great deal. Use the code RENEW6 for 1 year and you'll get 6 issues for the price of 4, or type in Renew 12 for 2 years, where you also have a great savings. Plus, they'll even throw in a free Linkage hat. How cool is that? The publisher of Linkage is Donald Osborne. He's been a guest multiple times here on Cars Yeah. He's become a good friend of mine, and I'll tell you, Linkage Magazine is one of those newer magazines that you're going to want to get. It's all about experiences, opinions, and values. It's a wonderful publication, something I look forward to getting. And now that I'm going to be getting 6 a year, even more special. So go to linkagemag.com. Again, use the code RENEW6 or RENEW12 to get that special deal. Do it before December 31st, 2022, so that in 2023, you'll get 6 issues of Linkage Magazine instead of 4. Here at Cars Yeah, it's all about inspiration. And our charity of choice is TechForce Foundation, where it's all about making a positive difference in young people's lives. TechForce helps young adults discover their talents and passions for all things automotive, with a mission of helping students develop a career as a professional technician. TechForce awards nearly $2 million in scholarships every year for students to pursue technical education, and they support hands-on activities, events, and mentorships across the country, working to change the outdated perceptions of these careers. Auto techs are in high demand, but the supply of qualified technicians is critically short. They need your help to fuel their mission. Learn more and join me in supporting them at techforce.org. So as a listener of Cars Yeah, you know about the challenge question. I'd like to hear, what did you come up against that was really something that pushed you to the wall? However, as you know, it taught you an incredibly valuable lesson.
Well, yeah, I think it was 2015 when I released my first watch with Nezumi. Mm-hmm. The brand was founded in 2011, but 2016 or 2015 was the first year for the watch. And I did a Kickstarter campaign. Back then, Kickstarter was a really good platform for marketing. I didn't really do it for the funding per se. It was more that, I thought, this is a great place to really reach a lot of people.
Right.
And if I'm starting up, doing watches, that's great. I mean, it's just basically free marketing.
Right.
So I went there and did a campaign, a 30-day campaign, and I reached my goal within, I think it was 11 hours or something like that.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. So that was fantastic. And when the watches were delivered, I was actually a Swedish. I sold probably about 250, 260 watches over the Kickstarter campaign. So it wasn't huge, but it was enough to get me started. And when I got, delivered all the watches, the Swedish guy contacted me and said, shouldn't quartz be spelled with a Z?
Oh, no, no, don't tell me.
Oh, yeah. So, and I said, yeah, of course. And he said, well, on the dial, it says quartz with S.
Oh, no.
And I said, well, okay. So I went back and I panicked. I almost fainted when I got this text. And the thing is, he wrote this on the comments section on the Kickstarter campaign. So everyone that was backing the project saw this. And I fell through the floor.
Oh.
And I went back to the Kickstarter campaign. I looked at the images, and there was close-ups of the dial, and it said quartz with a Z. I was like, I know I spelled it correctly. And then I went and looked at the watches that I actually got delivered, and he was correct. It was with an S.
What?
So something had happened along the way. Yeah. So what I was showing on my campaign was the pre-production samples that I made.
Okay.
And they were correct. So something happened when I actually went to mass production of the watches, and I have no clue because everything was finished, everything was signed off, but someone at the factory changed it to S.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh.
So that was so I had to put out some fires there. People, the whole internet thing. A lot of trolls out there. Having maybe, I think it was around 260, let's say 260 backers that backed my project. Almost maybe 10 of those that were really, really like going after me and saying a lot of bad things, saying, threatening like they're going to put, out this info out to all the press and everything, just like ruin the brand.
Right.
And I was like, I was new at the game. I was like, what am I going to do? Jeez. But it was only 10 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you listen to those 10 rather than the other 250.
They get very loud, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So I learned my lesson and I go through my design. I mean, this wasn't my fault, but everyone thought it was my fault. I was just a mess, but
I feel for you because I worked for 20 plus years at a company where we made a lot of branded products with our name on them, including watches, by the way. We did some watches, and we had the same thing happen several times with products where but I wasn't just 200. I'm talking about 500, 1,000 plus things that we would order, and they'd be shipped from overseas. And one of them was a company had taken our logo patch and for some reason didn't like the car that was on it and put a Mustang on there instead of an old Europe. Yeah. And they delivered hundreds and hundreds of these tool bags. And I thought when my guy from the warehouse came in, he goes, why does our logo look like this? I thought they were teasing me. And I go, oh, very funny. And he goes, no, they're all like this. What?
Oh.
Yeah. I feel for you because been there, done that. It is very challenging, and you have to figure out either how to just, if they make good on it, and if they don't, how can we twist this up and make it something unique and different? So
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I think
Wow.
people look back at it right now, it's more of a collector's piece, but then I had to find a way. Like I was referencing Rolex have done the same thing, have misspelled like copies
Yeah,
or
those are probably
misspellings
some
on
of
the
the most
dials and stuff.
valuable Rolexes ever.
Exactly, and I tried to make it a kind of a fun thing in a bad situation, but people weren't buying that,
Well,
or
some
these 10
people,
people weren't.
yeah, well, give them their money back, or you just say, keep
Yeah,
the
yeah,
watch, you can have your money back, and please stop being
exactly.
mean to me. Special vehicle stories. As you know, I love to ask this question. You are a Porsche guy, so I'm kind of guessing it will be a Porsche we talk about today. Is there one special vehicle in your past that really stands out?
Yes, it's definitely my first 911. It's the 1982 911 SC that I got. Actually bought that as a as a carrot, kind of, to try. I needed to get my license. I got my license pretty late in life because I was stupid as a kid and drove around illegally a few times, and I got caught. Which was good. Nothing happened. I was just stupid and young. And so I got caught, and then they postponed my license. So I was like, okay, I got to wait 3 years.
Oh, really? 3 years? Ooh, that's
yeah.
a stiff penalty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then I didn't really need it at the time. I was living in a small city in Sweden, and we could walk everywhere and just take the bike. So I just didn't feel, until I moved to Stockholm, I felt like I really need a car right now. So then I bought the 911, and I parked it in the garage. I never drove it. I never used it. I didn't even take it around the block. I didn't do anything. I told myself, like, I was going to look at it and then make myself get my license. And then, so that was actually my first car that I had after I got my license. Yeah.
Oh, I love the SCs. I have a good friend that has 78, I think was the first year for the SC. And it's just, I love driving that car. It's so nice. And I had an 84 cab that was the first year of the Carrera after the SC. That was also a great car, but that motor in that SC is just, it's delightful. It is. Yeah, and the car just looks good. It started to have a little bit of flair to the fenders and so forth. And, still pretty much an analog car, obviously. But now you said had it, so you've let it go?
No, I've rebuilt it. I've backdated it.
You still have it? Oh, okay, good.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm never letting that go.
Okay,
so
good.
Now I rebuilt it into something else, or more of a
kind of an R group
say
type
maybe
car?
Of sorts. Yeah, something like, just like I did. I did everything that I really wanted. Just put all the details. So it's an F model look.
Okay.
But I kept the flares and just did all the things that I really wanted on a car. It's kind of like a narrow body ST, I would say.
Oh, okay. Well, you've done some video stuff with your Porsche. I mean, you got a YouTube page, right? Yeah, with some really cool stuff. So I assume the car's in some of these videos?
Not that one yet.
Not yet? Okay.
Other cars. Yeah, other cars for sure. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'll make sure we put links to that too, so you listeners can go check that out. Now, I become a bit of a car psychologist here on Cars Yeah. So I'm going to crawl into your head. If you were reincarnated as a vehicle, David, what would you be and why?
I would probably be an amphibious car, I would say. So I can go anywhere.
This is an interesting answer. Why is that?
I mean, just so I can go to a rural. I can't even say it. Let's refrain.
A rural,
yeah,
a rural area, yeah. That's one of those words that you need marbles in your mouth to say.
Exactly. Yeah. So so I can go, where no one else has gone, and just kind of get away from society for a while, civilization.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. Well, maybe the James Bond Lotus that can go off the edge of a pier.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Fly around underwater. But there's also the amphicars, which you've all seen, which I've heard them described as they're a terrible car and they're a worse boat. I've actually got to go on a ride on one at the Ironstone Concord. They have a lake there, and people who have those cars bring them and give people rides, and they're kind of interesting. But I think we're looking at something maybe a little more unique in your case, right?
Yeah. Well, you know what they say about Lotus. Lots of Lots of trouble.
I'm not going to say anything bad about any brand, because every time I do that, I get in trouble.
All right, let's scratch that.
But
Yeah,
we won't talk about Joseph Lucas either. So last time I did
I
that.
love the Lotus though.
Yeah, well, there's some beautiful designs about Lotus cars, and they're fun to drive. And Radford is doing some really cool things with Lotus cars.
Yes.
I've had them on the show. So along with Ant Anstead and the other famous people involved. So you mentioned you love to give back, and you mentioned a passion for animals and nature and so forth. I'd like you to talk a little bit more about that, the ways you like to give back.
Well, I'm very much involved in animal charity organizations. So I give a lot to different organizations such as Sea Shepherd organization, which I've been a member of since 1994 or so. So I've been
a long time.
Yeah, so I love giving back to that, and animal shelters like dogs and cats and so on. There's been such there's so many dogs and cats coming in now to these shelters after the pandemic. People buying animals when they were working from home, and then they have to go back to the office, and then they're just like, so it's a bit of a mess right now. And I mean, it wasn't good before, but it's worse now. And all these dog trade and stuff like Yulin in Asia and so on. I really try to work against that and stop the cruelty.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing. Yeah, the pets and things are wonderful, but it's a huge responsibility that you got to take seriously when you get a pet. And and sadly, you never thought about that with COVID. COVID brought on a lot of change, of course, some bad, some good, actually a lot of bad, some good. But I never thought about people getting animals because they were home and then having to go back to the office, and then the poor animal sits at home all day, which is no way to treat an animal. So interesting. Sea Shepherd organization. Yeah. I'll put a link to that on your website so listeners who love animals can go and check that out. Now, how about a great book? Is there one you'd like to share?
No, I really don't have it.
There's an answer. I love it when my guests are just blunt. No, don't read books. Sorry, can't help you with that one.
I mean, I have a lot of books, mainly like photography books, which I really, really like. And I enjoy like the Type 7 magazine that comes out. And I think they're beautiful. But, I don't know if you've seen that, but Type 7, they're mainly books.
Yeah.
With fantastic paper quality and photography and stuff. So I would say check out that. Yeah.
Well, I will. Absolutely. I love photography. I started getting involved when I was in high school on the yearbook staff shooting, and have shot for years and years. And oddly enough, I'm cameraless right now. I shot Nikons for years, and I had an older Nikon, and I was really set to go buy right before COVID, the new Sony mirrorless. I'd been looking at these new cameras and the advantages of them and so forth. And then COVID came, and I wasn't going anywhere. And I thought, well, if I'm going to go into this and buy lenses, and it's like a $10,000 purchase by the time you buy the nice body and all the lenses. And so I had just sold all my Nikon stuff on eBay and got a little bit of money towards it, but old camera gear doesn't bring a whole lot of money. And so I haven't done it yet. And of course, every year it's like, a new iPhone. They keep coming out with new cameras. Oh, now should I go back to Nikon or Canon? And there's all this stuff. So I've been thinking lately, because things are opening up, about finally pulling the trigger. May I ask, what do you shoot with? What kind of camera do you use?
I'm a Fuji straight through fanboy.
A Fuji fanboy. Okay. Yeah. Well, you just threw me completely off track here, because I hadn't even considered. Do a quick little plug. Why Fuji? It's Japanese,
because if you want the analog old feel, Fuji is the way to go. You got all the the knobs on the top like an old DSLR. It's not something you get with I love the Sony A cameras, I do, but if you really want that experience of the option, that's the good thing about Fuji. You have the option of going really analog, using the tactile dials at top, or you can go like modern, just use the quick wheels and stuff. So I think that's fantastic. Yeah, and it's either APS-C, and I actually shoot APS-C sensor, and I have a medium format. So I use their. They don't have full frame. They're all mirrorless, but I don't have a full frame, or they don't make it. Fuji doesn't have one.
Well, and I've also had guests on that are big Leica fans. I mean, they're just diehard Leica, which, of course, they make wonderful. I think some of the lenses are made for the Sony. The G lenses, I think, are made as well. So, yeah, I think I'm kind of thinking about maybe getting into it finally. So I'd like to get back into more photography. And we get trapped with these iPhones and phones in our hands, and it's just easy, and you don't have to carry stuff, and they do such a marvelous job these days. So, but yeah, I will be getting back into it. You'll give me some inspiration there, David. Thank you.
The good thing about the mirrorless thing is that you can really get into the vintage glass, which is, I shoot a lot of vintage like Leica glass and Voigtlander and stuff like that. So, and it really, really, it slows you down, which is super, super nice.
Yeah.
I love that.
I have a friend who's shot some really cool stuff and gets into the, is it Boku, the lenses that can really short apertures and so forth. So very cool. Okay. You give me some inspiration today. Definitely. Most definitely. So let's go on the ultimate drive. I'm going to enable you to drive anything you want, and you can go anywhere you want, and you can take anyone you want, including someone who's no longer with us, which opens the world up to a lot of possibilities. So what does the ultimate drive look like for a creative person like you?
Well, it's pretty easy for me. I would take my grandfather, because he actually passed away before I made it, if you will. But where I feel like I really, really did something with myself that I'm proud of. And he passed slightly right after that. So I would take him. I would say take a classic Colt 911 down through the Alps to probably, go down to Monaco and watch Formula One.
Yeah, nice.
I would say that was fantastic, yeah.
That sounds like a dream come true to me, for sure. Very nice. So you've taken us on a wonderful ride today, and I can't thank you enough. I'm so glad we finally connected and were able to talk. I wonder if you could leave us with a success quote, a mantra, or some kind of words of inspiration for our listeners today.
I would say I heard this a few years ago. The quality of the intention dictates the outcome, which I feel is a very, very good quote.
Yeah, I like that.
I think you should go into, either you do it or you don't. Kind of like the Yoda.
Yes.
Do or do not. There is no try. It's kind of the same thing, And I live by that. I feel like it's important to, dip both feet in, go all the way in and immerse yourself in what you're doing. And if you don't feel you have the time or the energy or whatever for that, I don't think you should do it at that time, or maybe wait or whatever. But yeah, I think it's important to always go in head on.
Well, great attitude. And that's why you are where you are. How can people learn more about Nezumi and Roughneck Brigade?
Well, you can go to, we're at Nezumi Studios on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and so on. And NezumiStudios.com is our website. Roughneck has a website, which I don't really do much on, so it's not worth checking out. But I'm personally at Campo 911 is my handle on Instagram.
Okay, cool. We can follow you there. And I'll put links to all these on David's show notes page. I want to do a shout out to a couple of your colleagues there, Steen and Carolina, for helping connect me with David today. Thank you, you two. You made this easy. I really appreciate it. You've got a great group of people you work with there. David, hey, thanks for connecting with me, for being so generous with your time and your creativity. I've really had fun getting to know you better today. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you down the road.
Yes. Well, thank you, Mark, for having me. It's been great. It's been really interesting talking to you.
This was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.